Joining me now, we have Abby Livingston, the Washington bureau chief for the Texas Tribune, and Juana Summers, national political reporter for the Associated Press. Well, no offense, Abby. AP is AP. AP always gets the first question, right? You get the first question.
I can go with that.
I hear you. Juana, what are you hearing? Give me some scuttlebutt. What's going on tonight with the prep?
So this is the big night everybody's been kind of waiting for. Last night, you had a lot of candidates looking for those big moments that could not just give them a great narrative coming out today, but also one that can carry through the weekend after the second night. Big things I'm watching is, what does Bernie Sanders do? His campaign for the last week now has been telegraphing to me that he plans to really draw the distinctions, that contrast, as they say, which possibly means an attack, on former Vice President Joe Biden. He's been one of the most outspoken candidates, really talking about his record. So I'm curious how exactly he will do that and what the tone of that conversation will be, particularly as he's also likely to take some heat from another member of his own party and former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper, who's been really leaning into this anti-socialism narrative.
There's been this idea that Biden's going to be in the crosshairs here, but you just set up the idea that it could end up being Bernie in the crosshairs here. What are you hearing? What are you picking up?
Well, I think one thing to think about, and looking back to last night, and I always want to come back to Texas.
I'm going to give you your Texas moment, I promise.
But so Julian Castro was an afterthought, and he was very punchy in a way that wasn't very gimmicky. And so one of the questions, a source I talked to today who has a candidate on the stage, he wonders if candidates are going to start amping it up and come harder because they see the example that Julian set.
Trust me, those of us that are going to be delivering questions tonight are wondering that ourselves. On that front, I'm just going to limit that there a little bit. Kamala Harris, what do we think is going to happen there?
So this is a moment that her campaign has been hyping up for a long time. Some of her best moments of her campaign so far have come not on the campaign trail, but in the halls of the Senate. When she's sitting on those committees, she's questioning these candidates. And I think if you look at that speech she gave at the South Carolina Democratic primary convention, you start to see how she's going to weave that prosecutorial experience in with her ability to interrogate, to ask questions. The big question I have, as somebody who spends a lot of time with her and a lot of time talking to her campaign, is she's shown that she's a great questioner. She's shown that she can look at a rap sheet. She says she can prosecute the case. But if you as moderators, or if these other candidates are pressing her on questions about her record in the heat of the moment, how does she respond to those inquiries? That isn't something we've seen yet from her, and I think is one of the big unanswered questions. But I think she's someone who's really looking for this to be a big moment.
Pete Buttigieg. He is literally 2 weeks ago the guy who's going to outrage the entire field. The guy's the taking up the sort of the new candidate frontrunner space. Now he's got his own rough moment, leadership crisis, if you will, in South Bend. What are you watching for with him tonight?
I talked to several Democratic sources today, and there's no name that came up more unsolicited today than his.
Why do you think that?
This is a very, very big moment for his campaign, given the police shooting that happened there in South Bend. So the spotlight, I'm assuming the moderators, whoever those people are going to put the spotlight at least at some point on that. And we're going to see how it goes. And also what we've noticed in several debates this year and past cycles is sometimes it's more fun to beat up on maybe not the front runner, but the next to front runner.
Well, Beto O'Rourke felt a little bit of that last night. I want to play, you're the Texas reporter here. This was quite the little exchange between the two-star Texans, Beto O'Rourke and Julian Castro. Let me play a clip of it.
Some of us on this stage have called to end that section, to terminate it. Some, like Congressman O'Rourke, have not. And I want to challenge all of the candidates to do that. I just think it's a mistake, Bethel. I think it's a mistake. And I think that if you truly want to change the system, then we got to repeal that section.
I helped to introduce legislation that would ensure that we don't criminalize those who are seeking asylum and refuge in this country. If you're fleeing desperation, then I want to make sure that you're treated with respect.
I'm still talking about everybody else. You said recently that the reason you didn't want to repeal Section 1325 was because you were concerned about human trafficking and drug trafficking. But let me tell you what, Section 18, Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Title 21, and Title 22 already cover human trafficking.
I think that you should do your homework on this issue.
If you did your homework on this issue, you would know that we should repeal this section.
Abby, you know these folks. You covered Beto very closely. You've covered Julian very closely. Was this inevitable? Is this just, or is there something else going on here?
I I was shocked. I've never seen
really?
Julian Castro like that before. His reputation in Texas politics is cautious, timid. It gets annoying for him when people use that language, including myself.
Okay.
And I think you've got two things going on here. Secretary Castro said to me in April, the debate is my big moment, and he prepared for this, and it's very apparent, and he did the things you're supposed to do. But I think there's some underlying tension. The Castro camp said over and over this was not personal, but Secretary Castro was the it guy in Texas politics until Congressman O'Rourke came along.
What I found interesting here, Juana, is bigger picture. Okay, they were debating this idea: do you decriminalize essentially the immigration process? Not everybody wanted to jump on that. You could see, was Beto in his head when you're watching him think, is he thinking about the general election and thinking about a talking point that Republicans want to use, which is Democrats are for open borders?
Absolutely. I think that's certainly part of the calculus. And for Julian Castro, I think the calculus was this is an issue that while we may not have gotten as much attention as some other folks' plans, this is an issue that he feels like, and his campaign has told us, they feel like they've consistently led on. They haven't gotten the
first immigration plan was Julian.
Whereas many other candidates have not done that. They have led on this, and they have not gotten the recognition, frankly, they think they should have. And so they prepared for this, as Abby said, she's absolutely right. And they saw it as a moment for this to be a differentiator.
Will this have an impact on Texas donors, Democratic donors who maybe like them both?
One of the more fascinating things about Texas donors is the big guys, the bundlers.
They're all with candidates not in Texas.
Yeah, pretty much. So there was some commentary. Castro impressed them, but yeah. So
are they all with Biden and Harris and the big names? Is that the issue?
Gillibrand is one of the favorites. She has spent a long time building relationships in the state, and so she's constantly coming through. And the people who really know how to get the Rolodex going, like Kirsten Gillibrand.
Right. Abby Livingston, Juana Summers, boy, you guys brought it. Sources. I loved it. I think I heard it like 7 times, and that's what we were talking about. Thank you both. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.